Why do men not talk about their fertility journeys? A third of infertility is due to female issues, a third is due to male issues, and a third is due to combined issues. So we can't hide the fact that we need to give men a voice and we need to open up that conversation.
We didn't identify exactly that point where was the issue, but we knew that we understood that I was part of the problem. Over the next 4 years, I think we went through 5 attempts. And Marco came along in 2015, which was amazing, but it was very difficult for 5 years.
NHS funding for fertility has gone down in the last 5 years, not gone up, and so it's something we really got to address as a country. But I'm seeing more and more men in my fertility clinic with not just a low count. That's not the issue. It's the quality of sperm. In 3 months, you can completely change your sperm by. There's absolutely no link between your sperm count and your masculinity.
Unexplained infertility, so we did all of our testing and everything kept coming back super healthy, and there's it has its own frustrations because well, something's not working. So I'm always really conscious of when I have these sort of conversations that I am aware that we didn't have a miscarriage and we didn't have a bad test result, so we kind of have a different view on the experience. And that's when we were referred over to Agora, and really fortunately it all worked on that first time. So I always say we had, yes, it's a tough journey, but I think we had the nicest version of a tough journey.
1 in 6, 1 in 7 couples, it doesn't. That's a pretty stark statistic. And as you say, probably the worst diagnosis in a way.
It's all gone according to plan. And then we actually had a miscarriage on Christmas Day. It just felt so useless. And what a journey that's been. But I still say to kids, I always say to every time I look at them kids still now, I still say to I honestly don't think we'd have had them if it was up to me. And just purely I've gone so far, and I thank her every day for the fact that as we all know, game changers like.
There has been in the last 2 or 3 years a bit more of an opening up of the conversation, particularly amongst women, but we're still far behind when it comes to men. And if we look at the statistics around men's mental health anyway, and you add into that fertility issues.
With a mission here, right, with a goal to try and open the conversation more, to try and get men talking about it a little bit more, around mental health, around fertility, around all of these subjects that are seen as taboo, that actually, hopefully, conversations like today will start changing the game. I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. From sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. Okay, welcome to a very special episode of the podcast today. We are here in the award-winning multi-award winning Nostos in Hove. Like we did there, mate. We're getting the trophies out later. I'm here with a couple of legends. Kyriakos Baxevanis, the founder of Nostos in Hove, and Tom Webster, founder of Century Funding, along with the founder of the Agora Clinic, the person that makes miracles happen, the wonderful Dr. Carole Gilling-Smith. Welcome all. How are we doing?
Yeah, really good.
Well, good, Sam. Thank you.
I'm really excited about it. Carole, me and you have spoke about this a few times, haven't we? And trying to get this up and running, and we're finally here and we've made it happen. So I'm really excited to delve in. But look, Carole, kick us off. Tell us why we're here today.
Well, I've spoken to all of you individually. I mean, we're a community here in Brighton, and something that just kept coming up was, why do men not talk about their fertility journeys? Why are we finding that the research on male infertility is so far behind the research on female infertility? I mean, traditionally, infertility is managed by gynecologists. I'm a gynecologist, so it's regarded as a female health problem, but it isn't. It's a couple in couples. Half of the infertility has got a male factor to it. So a third of infertility is due to female issues, a third is due to male issues, and a third is due to combined issues. So we can't hide the fact that we need to give men a voice and we need to open up that conversation. So I was hoping, having a coffee here with you guys, we could just delve a little bit more deeply into, why are people not talking about it and what we can do about it.
Amazing. And I think that what connects us all, not only the fact that we're all in the business community, but I guess the three of us, we're all fathers, and we've all been on our own journey, right? And I think that's what we bonded over that and sharing those stories. And the common link is obviously that we've all come to the Agora Clinic, and you've made miracles happen for all of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that just as a starting point, really, we want to just share. I think delve into our stories a little bit. Just give us a bit of an overview. We'll start with you, Kyriakos. Just to give us a little bit of an overview of your IVF journey and where that started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here, everyone. It's just lovely getting these discussions out there. I think they're very important. So our journey started probably with a couple of years of trying to conceive naturally. That took us up to 2011 when we decided that this is not happening and we need to ask for support, for help. So we knocked on the door of NHS. We done the testing and everything else that you were required to do. And then promptly we were referred to the Agora. We didn't identify exactly at that point where was the issue. But we knew that we understood that I was part of the problem myself. I mean, no problem, but it was probably with me personally. And over the next 4 years, I think we went through 5 attempts, a couple of them on NHS, as you do, and Sussex is, I'm not sure if it's Sussex or Brighton and Hove, we do have a few free attempt out there, which is great, which doesn't apply to the rest of the country as well. So we're a bit special down here in the south, I think. That didn't work out, the first couple of attempts, and then we had another 3 on a package, I think at that point you were offering. And lucky enough, on the 5th attempt, and probably one of the last ones, well, it wasn't going to be our last one, but we decided to tweak the process. Past that point, we didn't have to, thank God, and Marco came along in 2015, which was amazing, but it was a very difficult 4 or 5 years before we get there. So that's in a nutshell. Yeah.
Right, thank you for sharing. I guess just a couple of things for me to pick up on there, like that for you as a man, that feeling when you find out that the situation, or you say the issue, the problem, whatever it is, but is what was with you. How does that make you feel at that point?
Well, I was in my early 30s at that point in time. I always knew that there was something not right, but I never investigated, obviously, because I didn't have to. So when the time was right, that obviously came forward. How did that make me feel? Yeah, it was emotional. It was difficult. And one of the things that I've done is before we got married with May, with my wife, is that I've told her that potentially we might not be able to have kids, or at least. So I did tell her up front that there might be some complications. I felt that was the right thing to do. I wasn't considering IVF at that point in time. Obviously, technology progressed very rapidly, but I thought it's the right thing and it's the decent thing to do. But she still went through it, and we're still here, so that's good.
Amazing. And I think you touched as well on the fact that here in Sussex that we get obviously 2 rounds on the NHS, and because it's not like that everywhere, Carole, is it?
No, this is one of the tragedies, is that finance shouldn't really play a role in your medical health, and infertility, it's a diagnosis, it's a condition, it's something that causes a lot of mental anguish, and we shouldn't, by definition, we shouldn't isolate infertility and say, well, the NHS won't cover this, it'll cover heart disease, it'll cover mental health conditions. So we're lucky because the postcode lottery is good for Sussex. At the moment, it's actually better than when you guys came through. It's 3 fully funded cycles of
Really?
IVF
Wow.
and 3 frozen cycles, but this is not the case in many parts of the country. I mean, there are some other good areas, but not many. And funding, NHS funding for fertility has gone down in the last 5 years, not gone up. And so it's something we've really got to address as a country.
It's, so I was going to say, it's strange it's gone down considering infertility seems to be going up.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's
Is that
right. Yeah,
Is that
we're definitely looking. We have very good statistics in this country. We can get those statistics from the regulators that record every single IVF cycle, and certainly fertility rates are on the increase, and male fertility is becoming more and more of a problem. But funding has actually gone down in the last 5 to 10 years. Well, certainly in the last 10 years, we've seen a general decrease constantly, year on year. So that's very worrying. And certainly in the last 50 years, there's concern. I mean, it's been called the spermacopolis and the decline in male fertility. There's a lot of controversy as to whether there's actually, in reality, a decline in sperm count. But I'm seeing more and more men in my fertility clinic with not just a low count. That's not the issue. It's the quality of sperm that's definitely declining, and we're seeing more and more abnormal sperm count. So you're seeing much higher rates of abnormality in sperm, lower motility, and there's a concern that there's environmental factors that that could be toxic. We're talking about the plastics in the environment. We're talking about pesticides. We're talking about lifestyle. Obesity is on the up, and that's linked to male infertility. Hormonal factors, potentially hormonal factors in the water, but also guys going to the gym to work out and potentially taking things like protein shakes that might have trace amounts of hormones. All these things are contributing to a worsening level of sperm quality. So it's a problem.
Because it was that thing. I remember when me and you first spoke, and we were over lunch. He was I'm not drinking because
Yeah.
I remember going through. We spoke about it, and then when I remember going through the same, thinking when we're going through this IVF, we want to give ourselves the best chance of success. So did completely stop drinking, diet-wise, and actually, I guess until you have a problem, you don't necessarily look at that, right? And I think would you say that's such a big factor, people's diet and just lifestyle, as you mentioned?
It's a massive factor. You start to make sperm at around the age of puberty, and it's a sort of 3-month cycle. You're continually making sperm. So if you can address your lifestyle, when you've had a sperm test that's not so good, and that can be quite harrowing when somebody is sort of first told their sperm count is low or the quality is poor. But you can make such a difference. Right vitamin supplements, stop drinking, stop taking recreational drugs. That's another big factor. Some people are even, they think they're doing something healthy. They're cycling an awful lot, going up and down the downs on a push bike. It's not good. It's not great. And looking particularly at this, I always say just avoid processed food, and I'm less worried about mobile phones. There's a lot of myths around mobile phones, but I think your nutrition is key, and I think you have to think differently. You've probably been in a relationship, you've had a lot of fun, you've gone out, been to stag do's. In 3 months, you can completely change your sperm by not necessarily avoiding the stag do's, but perhaps taking a different approach to the stag do.
I think that's a really important thing for anyone when people are listening, actually, because a lot of people go, oh, I've done this for so long, it's not going to affect, but knowing that you can change within the 3-month period. If you do watch your diet, you do stop drinking, exercise regularly, take all this information that we're sharing now, take that on board, that you can change that within 3 months. You can change the quality of your sperm within that time, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's one of the other things that I see in the clinic is, we talked about your diagnosis. So you've all had your sperm test. Men don't like to come to the clinic. They don't like to have a sperm test, and they like even less to be told the result isn't great. There's this kind of unsaid link between your sperm quality and quantity and your masculinity. Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way, but it's almost it's conditioned from puberty onwards, and there's absolutely no link between your sperm count and your masculinity. And I think there's a sort of reticence to take that step forward, be checked out early. get checked out early in the relationship, because you can do something about it. Potentially you can do something about it.
And this is the thing, we'll come on to this later, I guess, around the education style of stuff, but it's stuff like this that you growing up, you don't even think about, do you? In your early 20s, you don't think, I'm going to go and get tested, or everything's going to be fine, and etc. And then it's not until later that you find out that actually there are potential issues. Same with us, like, well, you know, when I share my journey, I remember going up to the point of thinking everything was going exactly as we planned, and got married, we had a house, and met at school, etc., etc. And you come to a point where you get pregnant, got pregnant really quickly, and then all of a sudden it didn't go well, and you because there was a lack of education, you didn't know about it. You didn't know about these problems, miscarriages, and troubles with fertility. And I think because, again, back to the point why we're all here today, is because people don't talk about it, and especially when it comes to men, right? We just don't tend to be as open about that, and that's what I guess I'm trying to touch on what you said, Kyriakos, about like you said about the myth around it. If you've got problems with your sperm, then you feel emasculated, right? And I think we are as men, whether it's ego, whatever it looks like, there is that situation where we sort of feel like, there's problems with me, like, am I not a real man? And I wonder whether, from a woman's point of view as well, if they can't get pregnant, there's often the talk around females, and they talk a lot more openly about it, but to the sense that they go, if I can't carry a child, and I'm not a real woman, and them type of things. I think, like, from a man's point of view, is that, I don't know, what do you guys think? Is that what you sort of think around that process?
I think society says that. I feel I was always fortunate in my journey in that we were unexplained infertility. So we did all of our testing and everything kept coming back super healthy. And there's it has its own frustrations, because well, something's not working. They can't just keep telling me that everything's fine when it's obviously not fine, because we've been trying for so long. So I never had that emotional connection, because we were fortunate not to go down there. But I do know that there's a part of you that thinks, well, if it is, maybe then. So it was never a direct thing that was already in my head, but it was something I was always conscious of, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, touching on that then, tell us a little bit about your journey and your story.
Yeah, so me and Ems met, and quite quickly we sort of really hit it off really quickly. So we're both from the same town, and it turned out that we literally lived around the corner from each other. About 4 different houses, and we had the same dog, and but literally our paths never crossed. And she was the year below me at school, but we actually met in our 30s on Tinder, even though we knew of each other. But it was Tinder that connected us, and very quickly we sort of our lives just meshed together really well, and it was just everything just was perfect. So we moved in together really quickly, and then COVID happened, and then you're together, but everything was just really idyllic. And I think you were saying earlier about sort of that whole not trying thing, and you do the whole trying to make sure you don't get pregnant because you've only just met each other, and then you then start trying, well, why is this not working? I've spent my entire 20s making sure I don't get pregnant. Now I want to and I can't, and it's all really frustrating. So we tried for about a year, off and on. You have your moments where you take it a bit more seriously than us. We tried for about a year, and then it got to about a year, and we said, let's really try. So that was when you was checking your ovulations, and you was dieting, no alcohol, going to the gym, just making sure that we were giving ourselves the best possible chance. And then a year of that, and then we went to the NHS, the same as you did. Luckily, again, with the NHS, we were offered the 3 tries, but then a year of testing. So as I mentioned earlier, we went through a whole year of, it was always felt like it was months and months away until the next test. And I think the NHS do it on purpose. I think they hope that in that year you get pregnant and they save the money.
They do.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's no reason all those tests going to be done in the same month.
No.
So you have a year of testing, and like I said, it was always nice to get a test result back that was healthy, but then there's the underlying frustration of, okay, but why? So then you're like, yeah, okay, it's great, but something's not working, and then no one's telling you why it's not working, and so you just keep going. And we did this year of testing, and I was saying to you guys earlier, and then we even got to a point where it would have been this time 2 years ago. We said, right, let's just stop. We've been doing a year of testing, we're stressed, it's putting loads of pressure on us. We'll go out to Seville, we'll work from Seville, we'll hire a nice apartment, and we'll just get away from everything. And then so we arrived Sunday night. in pitch black, pulled up, put our bags in the apartment, had a sleep. Woke up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, about 100 kids screaming. We looked out the window, it's a primary school in front of us, and we'd gone all the way over to Spain to try and get away from the thinking of kids, and the two of us just absolutely, we just wet ourselves laughing because I thought this is so funny that you've tried to get away from it and it's just in your face, and it was really sweet because you see all the kids playing and stuff. But so then that happened, and then it was, I think it was the December or January was when the doctor said, okay, right, we're gonna go straight for IVF. I said, look, you're going to have the best chance with IVF. There's a load of things you could do in between, but because we don't know what it is and we know that this is going to be the highest chance of success, just go for that. And again, that's when we were referred over to Agora, and really fortunately it all worked on that first time. So I always say we had, yes, it's a tough journey, but I think we had the nicest version of a tough journey because we never had any real big upsets. So I'm always really conscious of when I have these sort of conversations that I am aware that we didn't have a miscarriage and we didn't have a bad test result, so we kind of have a different view on the experience. And obviously really conscious when we have these sort of conversations that we're aware of that. But yeah, we feel really fortunate that we got to where we got to and had the journey we had. And I think I said to you actually, I think we was playing golf, and I said, no, I wouldn't swap it. In the weirdest way, like when you start, before you start the journey, you do... Failure is not the right word because you don't feel like a failure, but there's whatever the word is, but there's this thing that is like something's not working and there's nothing you can do. And I'm self-employed, Em's is self-employed. We are the sort of people that make things happen. So you go and you work hard and you work harder. If something's not happening, you work even harder, and it just doesn't matter what we do. This thing we cannot fix. And then we just got to that point, and then it was just like, right, I wouldn't change any of it because of how involved the journey was. And I was saying to you, so like we told our parents, and we're really open telling people, again, we'll talk about this later, but having everybody involved in this process in a weird way made it more special. Yeah. So you've gone from really worried about IVF to the point, and I mentioned earlier, is like I went through counselling for a period of time to try and get my head in the game, and I didn't want to do it. Then there was a period of time I was like, no, I don't want to do IVF. IVF isn't my journey. That's not what I want to do. And then it wasn't until I really started to break down why I'm thinking like that and stuff. And then to go from that to then, actually, it was the best thing that could have happened for us because it made our relationship much stronger. Our parents were involved, all the scans, all the different tests, all the different things. Everybody's on side rather than going through this journey alone. But yeah, no, like I said, it was a roller coaster. Definitely wasn't a straight line, but it was a bit of a roller coaster.
It's like, I think one of the brilliant things about us, obviously the three of us getting together, and obviously individually, and we spoke about our journeys individually, is that they are all different, right? All three of us have got a different experience with what that looks like. With a couple of things that, just to touch on what you mentioned there, I think you mentioned about you and then both being self-employed and business owners, and as business owners, entrepreneurs, we solve problems, right? That's what we do. Tapping into that frustration must have been the most annoying one, because like you said, if they had come back, this is a problem. Yeah. What does the problem look like? We're going to solve that. Yeah. Like, to come back with it being unexplained, the levels of frustration for both of you, I guess, at that point must have been difficult.
It's both. It's frustration and relief. So you get this test result that says everything's great, and you're like, brilliant, but why? How is it great if it's not working? And like I said, we never had a miscarriage. We had one moment where we thought that there could have been something, and Em was late and all those sort of things, and it turned out it wasn't anything. But we never really had those full starts. So it was 3 years of nothing, of every month, and that was the thing that really compounded, was every time the period came, or her period came, is the emotional toll of that. And we talk about men and stuff like that, and I think as much as this is about men, it's like the reason it is so focused on women is because it is happening to women. Do you know, like I think, and again, we'll probably talk about this later, but feeling like such a spare part in all of the different meetings that you go to, being a man, but ultimately, like, you have to respect the fact that the woman is the one it's their body that's going to be carrying this baby, and all of those sort of emotions go through it. So every time Em's period came, it was like a kick in the guts. And then you're then trying to do your best to console her and make her feel like everything's going to be all right, but you don't know if everything's going to be all right, because again, you're fighting a ghost. You don't know what you're coming up against. So yeah, no, it's definitely I think I'm sure you'll feel sad like that.
that was such a big thing for us for the long period of time that we did go without getting pregnant. Was literally like we must have. I reckon I should have shares in pregnancy tests. The pregnancy tests we had, that just every single went, oh, maybe this is just, it's not worked because it's not the best one, and let's go and get spending fortunes every month.
And they're not cheap, right?
No, I'm skinned. I honestly couldn't get me in. Like, so every month, you're right, it was the emotional roller coaster that every month that Kelly got her period, and she wasn't pregnant. Just devastating. Like, just really, really. So, like you said, that for us, it's not physically happening to us, but the emotion. I think from a man, it's still that emotional type, because we're on that journey. We still want that, right? We still want the outcome, but and like you said, you almost feel a little bit helpless from it. Right? That for me was such a, like, just the roller coaster of that period of time, like them few years. Just every single month, and again you highlighted about cancer Seville and surrounded by, and it just seemed that, I don't know if you guys felt as well, but it would be, we was at a stage where we've got friends from school, so we was getting, me and Kelly were the first ones to sort of get married, me and Kelly were the first ones to sort of drive for a baby, and then all of a sudden everyone was getting pregnant and we wasn't, and it just seemed like every time you went out it was another friend, and we've got some great news, and you're so happy. Like, if you come from a place of kindness and you're that type of person, you're genuinely happy for other people. Well, of course you love that's amazing. But at the same time, and Kelly especially, it would just floor her every single time, because she wants to be happy for a friend, and yet at the same time she's there and seeing these other people. Like, was you and May, like, did you experience that?
Well, I mean, we had a smaller circle of people. Obviously, I've just moved from Greece, a few years back, and so our family was around us, and we did share it with the family, well, not with friends. We didn't have that. In retrospect, I think that could have helped, opening up a bit more. But a couple of things that you've highlighted: the resilience, the self-employment, mindset, whatever you want to call it, but the resilience of, this is not going to defeat me. I'm going to find a way through it. I've got a plan. And these 5 attempts, or 5 years, 5 years, that we've been through this, it was like, okay, next one. And there's a plan B, and there's a plan C. And if that doesn't work, whatever, we're going to adopt. End of the day, we're going to become parents one way or another. And that kept us, and that helped us as well. It was one of our biggest challenges as a couple. As you rightly said, so we came together, and everything else that we've done with May subsequently, I think it was born from these 5 years of helping each other go through this.
Yeah, because you have to do it together. And I think when me and Ems were having struggles is when we weren't really together. We're both sort of fighting these fights in our own heads, and we weren't talking, and we thought we were, but in retrospect, when we both had to sit down and have another conversation, and it's probably more me than her. She's the planner. I'm the, like, let's just see how it goes. I'm much more relaxed, and Em's just like, no, we need to do this and this and this and this, and without it, we probably wouldn't be where we are, which is how incredible she is. But there were moments where we were butting heads, and we were finding it like tough, and that's when I then looked inside myself and said, I need to be doing more here, because I'm not carrying my weight. So that's when I started seeing a counsellor, a psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, and so for a few months, it was like every week having an hour's worth of a conversation. And I felt like I wasn't having conversations I wouldn't have with other people because of how open I am, but it was just that time to have someone really go in on me, because usually if you talk to your friends, they're going to be supportive. They're going to be, it'll be all right, but sometimes you need someone to go, well, you're thinking about this way, why don't you think about it this way, or have you thought about this? And to get myself to reflect inside and then come to that realization, actually, Ems is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, and it's now my turn to pick up some of this and work together. And it was having that time to reflect, and then we then come together, and then all of a sudden everything really changed, and our relationship become much stronger because of it.
I think that's really powerful, because I'm sitting in the clinic, and there are 2 types of couples. There's the couple where it's the woman that turns up to the appointments, is on the Zoom, is asking all the questions, And then there's the couples that are couples where they both make the effort. And I generally find that that's the ideal couple that will be able to take the knocks and will be able to get to the next hurdle and get over that hurdle together. But it does take a while for people to think that way. And I think it does help the fact that, you perhaps have your own businesses, have that kind of real let's go for it attitude. It doesn't come easily to some people, and this is their first big challenge in the relationship. And everything's gone great. They've got married, or maybe they've gone on holidays together. Everything's been a dream, and this was supposed to happen. And for 1 in 6, 1 in 7 couples, it doesn't. That's a pretty stark statistic. And as you say, probably the worst diagnosis in a way is one where we can't tell you, well, this is wrong, let's fix it with this. We say, well, actually, this is wrong, but we don't really know what it is. We call it unexplained, but there must be something wrong because you're not getting pregnant naturally. So we'll fix it with this, but we're not really sure if it'll fix it. That's not great for us. But we do have obviously solid data to back up unexplained infertility. IVF is a very good approach, but that's frustrating. But I loved, for example, seeing, you sent me over a little video which I absolutely adore, where you are drawing up the injections, helping your wife, because you can't bodily take that injection. But by doing that act, you're sharing that whole quite difficult part of the journey, which is the daily injections that you have to take. And that's what we try. We really do try and encourage the men to get involved, because it does help. It's actually therapeutic for you.
It was the first time I felt useful. I made sure I was at all the appointments, even when we were struggling. I would never not be at certain things, and it was more of an emotional, not supported more than a physical. But then when we got round to it, and it was like, right, how much can I take off you? How much can I grab hold of and support you here? And the injections were the easiest one to really overcome, because there's actually a physical moment. In the weirdest way is I have to inject this in your stomach. There is a moment where you are connected and a part of it now, versus just being the bloke sitting in the corner while the doctor talks to your wife. It's like you're now, it's like I can be helpful. And I think women hate men for it. We want a solution to everything. Sometimes we just want you to just talk and listen, but it's in us to go, right, I want to fix this. I want to help you fix this. I want a solution. And to be able to do the injections and be with her at those moments. And it's funny, I wasn't too far from here. The very last injection, which was the trigger injection, was in the church. I can't think of is it Queen, the big church on where the Queen Victoria's at the bottom of the road. It was one of those classical music nights. Wow. So we're there, it's all candles everywhere. We're sitting there listening to this classical music of like movies and all this sort of Hans Zimmer night. And then we had to queue for the toilet, and then we've both gone in the toilet together to do the trigger injection. And you've got this queue outside of people thinking, what are these two people been up to in there? And if only they knew that we were in there to do that.
We're in there making babies.
Just not the fun way.
You know what? It's so funny you say that. I still remember we done exactly the same. We went to, we had a friend's birthday in London, and we was going to a nightclub in London. I remember emailing the nightclub beforehand saying, look, we're coming in, I've got a bag of with a needle in and an injection, but it's not like that, this is the process. And we informed them exactly the same, right? Wow. We went into the toilet together and we come out and there's people standing, you just think, wow, it is just and they're the type, but like you said, I guess from our point of view, is the fact that you want to be part of it, and you want to, like you said, we are problem solvers. I want to get in there and I want to fix it. Of course, I'm an eternal optimist. So for me, I'm like, of course everything's going to be all right. And we're going to sort out. This is just part of the process, and we're going on the journey. But when you go through and there's different stages and say failures or miscarriages, whatever those things look like, they're part of that roller coaster. You just keep almost going against the brick wall, and it is so hard to I guess to deal with. And I think. Obviously, I'll share a little bit about our story, which I've shared with you guys. But like I said, me and Kelly, we've known each other since we was 11, right? So we went to school together. We started dating when we was 18. So the whole childhood sweetheart thing. We then, moved in together, got our first place together. Everything. Kelly had always wanted to be a solicitor. Went to university, become a solicitor. Everything in life had all gone. Got married. group of friends that everything had gone according to what society would say would be. You've hit that milestone, hit that milestone, hit that milestone. Then she's like, right, okay, we're coming up to 30 now. She's a qualified solicitor. Let's get pregnant. And literally within the first few times of trial, we got pregnant. It was like, obviously, just fits in nicely with our whole plan. So it's all gone according to plan. And then we actually had a miscarriage on Christmas Day. She lost the baby on Christmas Day back in 2009, and it was just so out of the blue. Like, I was working at the Tony and Guy in Lakeside, so I was working Christmas Eve, and she'd come to Christmas Eve, come to do a bit of shopping there last night. She'd come in and she just said, "I've got a little bit of blood." I'm like, okay. So we ended up, I said to the people I was working with, I said, "Look, I'm going to have to go." And I went straight to the hospital. Didn't even think anything of it. Like, this is just part of the process that we're going to see what's going on. Getting back to lack of education, back to not understanding enough about it, back to how many people have miscarriages, etc. Turn up there, and it was literally Christmas Eve night, and they said, and it had, because of the way it had happened, they couldn't do anything on that night because of the timing as well, being Christmas. They couldn't do anything on the night, and it almost had to go and let it come out naturally. And she did go up Christmas morning, and it was just like, I mean. Like, you go back there now, like, so weird, isn't it? Like, you don't really relive these moments, but you go back to, I just remember, she was just devastated, and I just felt, sorry, I just felt like, just felt so useless, and she was just, and it was just such, and again, back to I'm going to do Christmas dinner. My mum and dad would come round. My mum and dad are not really talkers, right? So they come round, and it was so hard. We're sitting around a table, and I'm like, and it was just the most somber Christmas day you can even imagine. Like, Kelly just went to bed, and they would just, you go back then, but Kelly being Kelly, she's like, right, okay. After a few days, got over it, right, we're going to go out, and we want to go again. And we did, and we got literally pregnant really quickly again, and then this was in January, February 2010, and then in the April of that year, she, again, we was trying to be really careful then and monitor everything, ended up going, and she had an ectopic pregnancy. So we went into the hospital, again, sat there, scan, all them horrible feelings coming back through because of what happened last time we had the scan, and they said, look, and they literally had to run her down for an emergency operation, because obviously if it ruptures, it's devastating. So it was an emergency operation. We'd gone down there, and I still remember like that. I remember at that moment, they said that she'd probably be an hour and a half, 2 hours, 5 hours. I was sitting there on my own, and just kept thinking, going over in my head, if she comes through this, I'm okay. I don't need to be a father anymore. I just want her to be okay. That was where I went to in my head, and she did come out of it, and she survived. Obviously, she was fine. But for us as a couple, that's where she really hit a low point. Went through depression, because we went. You think that was at 30? We didn't actually then get pregnant right until we was 36, so nearly 6 years of it, because it was then I'd just taken over the salon down here, so I was commuting from Essex to Brighton every day, and I was going home, and she was getting really in a really bad place, but just wanted to get pregnant, so we was trying, and ovulation tests. I was coming home, I was getting off of the bike, freezing cold. I'd gone through the window, hour and a half on the bike, coming, I'm frozen. She's like, but I'm ready. Hang on a minute, let me defrost in the shower, and then we'll give it a go. But it was just, and it takes, I guess that's the thing, like that process, when it just becomes functional, doesn't it? Like when you're trying, it just
there is a moment in there.
It's just functional. Like, you think as a bloke, and I'll be honest, as a bloke, we go, oh, of course we want to have sex every day with our wives, and then when it becomes functional, it's not quite as enjoyable as when it's just a little bit bad. And I think that's quite a difficult, even that side of it's quite a difficult process, I guess, and a lot of couples, I guess, find the joy of making love, sex, and trying to make a baby becomes a really difficult thing. It just becomes so functional.
One of the things used to really annoy is the wrong word, but used to get us is when you would say to people, right, we're trying and all this sort of stuff, and they go, well, stop trying so hard, take the stress off, and you're like, that doesn't help. That you're making it worse. It's like as if these magic words, and I know it comes from a good place. People are saying it because everyone's always got a friend that said, oh well, they just stopped trying and then it just happened for them. Like, yeah, that was their journey. We're going through ours, and yeah, but it was one of those things that you get to the point where you're like, okay, right, here we go. and we would laugh about it sometimes. We'd both look at each other going, well, that's one of them ones, isn't it? But then I think you go full circle and you come into waves of it where all of a sudden you say, right, well, let's just take the pressure off and just enjoy it. But then it creeps in again because you realise we are doing this for a purpose. We both really desperately want to be parents, and it's hard not to take it seriously. And it's hard to then inject fun and all this sort of stuff. There's just this weird moment where, the two of you are sort of trying to work out what you're actually up to.
Yeah, I guess it's part, like you said, it is part of the journey and the process. And you go through, I think that roller coaster, you just go through such different waves with it. I remember getting past that, and almost then, we actually went through a period of just not trying for a long period again, just thinking we ended up moving down to Brighton and looking at Kelly again. I think it's really weird because I'd accepted, in my head, I'd gone so far along, that 5 hours I was sitting in the hospital on my own, I'd gone so far down that route that I was going, I'm okay, let's not push it, if it happens, it happens. But Kelly, being Kelly, she's so tenacious, she's like, no, I want to be a mum. So let's go, and then that's when we started looking at IVF and finding the Agora Clinic and what that process looked like, and we ended up going in for our first round, and it didn't work because Kelly had this very specific. Kelly's got something called natural killer cells. So the reason she had the miscarriage in the ectopic pregnancy because anything that went into the body was seen as a foreign antibody, so we just rejected. So she would never have got pregnant naturally, or she would have kept getting pregnant but would have kept losing it. And bear in mind, after the ectopic, she actually had one tube removed as well. Again, which was a whole process, a horrible process, and again, back to feeling less of a man, feeling less like she was like, I feel less of a woman. That's been removed. I'm like, the chances of me getting pregnant are minimal now, and if I do, it was such a awful that process and trying, but she just wouldn't let it go. She was like, God. And then we had the first round. I remember getting everything had gone really well. So we get a lot of eggs, and it all really healthy ones, and they was all gone back in. It was all everything was we ticked all the great boxes, and it was this couldn't have gone better for the first one. It didn't work, and we was and we spoke about this, didn't we, on the original podcast when you come on for the 24-hour one. I still remember coming in that first, and again, it just anything like that just floored Kelly. She's she just got she'd been really tenacious, really determined, and then something would knock her back, but it would knock her back so far. And I still remember going in that second time, and like you said, this didn't work, but that's okay. We'll look at the next process. And we did. I think we had some special tests that come in recognising the natural killer cells and what process we could do, and it was an additional part of the IVF journey. And then we had that first moment of going in and telling us that we were going to have twins. and wow, what a journey that's been. But I still say to Kelly, I always say to every time I look at them kids still now, I still say I honestly don't think we'd have had them if it was up to me. And just purely I'd gone so far, and I thank her every day for the fact that, as we all know, they're game changers, like 2-year-old. It changes your life more than anything else we'll ever achieve or do or whatever. And to sit in there and not experience that, I would have, so I will be grateful for her forever. In a day for that, and we again. I always say we were lucky ones as you guys are, and one thing, just to take it back, I guess for one thing, I did want to touch on what you said about adoption. I know me and you have sort of spoke again. that process, Kelly, we was talking after the first failed round, she went, if this doesn't happen, because the second round was not great, like we had less put back in, she went, it's definitely not going to work this time, and was really blasé about it, and maybe the less stress, maybe that helped, I don't know, but she started talking about adoption at that point, and I couldn't go there in my head, like, I would, again, I'm an eternal optimist. Until I sat in front of parents, she categorically said to me, you can't have children through IVF, you will not be able to have a child. Then maybe I'd have spoke about it, but until then I'm like, no, we'll be right. Yeah. I always said to her, because even if this doesn't work, even that second month, I said, if this doesn't work, we'll go again. We haven't got the money to work, we'll find the money. We'll find a solution, we'll go again, and we'll keep going until someone tells me categorically. So I didn't entertain the idea of adoption, but you did, didn't you? Obviously.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I was quite a unique case. First of all, I was the party responsible for the, for not being able to conceive naturally, and I'm quite unique as well. My sperm was healthy. The problem is that I have a genetic condition. One of my kidneys, it's in front of the reproductive sort of system, so it kind of messed up things down there. So they had to surgically remove sperm, and you froze it, and do it in the lab. So we had that additional complexity. So we both had a couple of live extractions, or me and implantation, May. So we had that additional step. So being the responsible party in a sense, I was thinking of everything. One of the options was donor sperm. If that doesn't work, maybe it's me, maybe it's, my sperm is not healthy, but thank God it was. And finally, I mean, the adoption side of things as well. So I wanted to give every potential opportunity for us to be parents, and for me to be a mother as well. So yeah, I felt responsible for for this not happening.
Yeah, I've got two. One friend has adopted, and I've got another friend who had the donor sperm. And you ask both of them if they would change it, and they would say no. That their kids are their kids. And I've always, even before I went through the journey, I always believed that to be a dad or a mum, the sperm and the egg is actually irrelevant. It's the person that raises that child is that person's mum or dad.
It's the nature versus nurture, and it's and I see this so often. I think when you're sitting on the other side of the table, we've had conversations with all of you, and it's our role is to manage your expectations, really manage them. Well, if we do this, we'll tweak that. What is a realistic chance? And to help you come to that decision, you know what? I think I'm ready now to think of another. I think our job is to keep those doors open, and they may not be always the doors that you'd originally hoped would be open. I'm going to biologically parent a child, and for those people, it's about making sure that they have no regrets. Go back, wind back your life and say, yeah, we did everything we could. Whether it's for egg donation or sperm donation, we did everything we could, but actually this is a great solution now because we know that it's going to have a much better chance of working, and we'll get to where we want to be, which is parents. And we have so many really happy couples who've done either egg or sperm donation, or who've gone on to adopt. But I think our role is really to try and bring it out of you as to what you want to do, and give you realistic chances.
And I think, for me now, I have different conversations now, because back at that time, again, I couldn't get my head around that option. But being a parent now, I think, again, back to the first second I held up Sienna come out first, the first second I held Sienna, game over. I've changed my life, and to know what it's like to be a father, I would 100% I would have adopted. I wouldn't go back, or whatever I needed to do to have this feeling, because I'm interested to find out from you, like, even through all of the stuff that we've done, right, all of the whole journey, as a man, I still, until the second I held her, even I'll be honest, I won't bullshit up. Like, even from the time when kids get bigger and I'm holding, I'm feeling them kick for the first time, still got to a point thinking, I ready for this. I'm not ready for this as a man. I don't know if I'm ready. And will you ever be ready? But
she was probably feeling the same.
yeah.
You know, actually, it's as women, when we're carrying, we don't quite know what we're going to feel like. And I can tell you, as a woman, the most amazing feeling when you first hold your own baby. It's a shared experience. It's a new road that you're taking. You do not know what you're going to feel like when you hold your baby for the first time.
And we've all been there, right? And it's just, there's nothing I don't think we'll ever do in our lives that will ever compare.
Oh God, no. Mine wasn't so much the whole, like you say, like throughout the pregnancy journey, you don't feel like a dad. You don't feel like, so you don't really feel overly involved. You see the bump growing and you feel the bump and you go and do the scans. I even fell asleep. Oh, Ems will kill me for telling this story. I even fell asleep during one of the scans. It was boiling hot summer. I'd already been to like 4 or 5 of these scans, and I was sitting there, and the midwife, or whoever's doing the scan, a really monotone voice. I'm hot, it's dark, and I'm like that. We've come out, and Ems was like, "Would you get really emotional in it?" And I went, "No, not really." She went, "You was asleep, weren't you?" so for that whole process, like you want to feel this thing, but mine was the scream. So we had Ems had a C-section in the end. Again, we wanted a natural birth, and you wanted natural's always a funny word when you talk about these things, but I think it's the best one we've got at the moment. So you want a natural birth, and you wanted a water birth, and all of this because you go down these stages, and it turned out actually it was probably going to be healthier for us to go for an elective C-section. So you've got the blue screens, you've got all your stuff on, and there was a stillness in the air that you instantly knew the baby was here. Everybody stopped. The world stops, and everyone's waiting to hear something. And it must have only been a couple of seconds, but felt like an absolute lifetime. Then all of a sudden, you just hear this bellowing scream, and I've just gone, and the two of us have just cried. And then they drop the thing, and then you see his little boy, and it's just like, literally, the world literally doesn't exist. For that moment, there is nothing else going on in the entire universe. It's just this little boy is here, and that scream was just like this moment where it just went, boom. And you're just like, oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a little bit challenging. 24 hours, we went into labor, and he wasn't coming out. I mean, he wasn't coming out for the love of God. So we had to end up, signing the papers, obviously, to surgery. Everything happens, we're not responsible. My God, I still remember signing the documents. And we're there. Forceps being used at that point in time. Comes out. I had to do the snip, the law, and then the scream. Life changing. Yeah. I have to say, everything stopped. As you say, everything's still, and then this miracle happened. I became a dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so strange, because so much I've shared, obviously, journey, a lot of the stuff I do with Rock and Horse, etc. And it was such a strange thing, because I look back at that moment, and every time I went from, because Sienna come out naturally first, like Kelly put in labour for quite some time. She went full term with twins, thankfully. But Sienna come out, I just still remember you hear that cry, they gave it to me when I was older, and just like you say, life-changing experience. And probably the happiest moment of your life. That in that second, just all captured. If you could bottle that, we'd all be doing it. We'd be nicking quick, right? But just magic. And then obviously Lucy had a prolapse called, and we went from that. Same signing things, emergency cesarean, and come out and didn't have that cry. Didn't have that because she was in floppy. They put her on a thing, and I'll tell you, for me, probably gone from the happiest moment of my life to the most scared I've ever been, because I just was not. Kelly was, she just given natural birth, and then she had an emergency C-section. She was just lying there, and they said, "Right, we've got to take her away right now." And they, thank God, we was at the Royal Alex, because it took them straight up to the Trevor Mann unit and said that got to put her on the cooling mat treatment. Basically, her brain swelled because it started with oxygen. Brain swelled, got put on cooling mat treatment to reduce the swelling. everybody's like, yeah, like you said, she's sort of silent, go, okay, whatever you need to do. And the fact that they were born there was she was on that cooling mat treatment within minutes, really, and that saved her life, like, because then from that period, I'm sitting in, Kelly was in bed still, she was open, and then I had, Sienna tried to look after her, but then I'm running up and he's on, Lucy just lying there with all these wires coming out, and you're just so scared. And I remember the doctor sitting there talking to me and saying that the stage that she's at, there's severe, moderate, mild or moderate, and she's edging towards the more severe side. So they was talking about brain damage, talked about cerebral palsy, and anything in between that. It just was not. But I think what got me through that period was there's something to be said about being an optimist. I just was like, okay. And I remember saying to that doctor at the time, she said, look, I understand what you're saying, but is there a potential that she's going to be okay? She said, look, we can't, obviously, they can't say one way or the other, but the potential, it responds well to the treatment, and that cooling mat treatment, 72 hours she was on that cooling mat treatment for. If you respond well to that, then there's a possibility. That's all I need to hear. And I just held on to that. And weeks I was in there, and then each stage just kept getting better and better. And you have the MRI scan, and I was similar to like that moment you said, like where you broke down. Like, up until then, I didn't allow myself to get emotional. I was like, it's going to be alright. It's going to be alright. Kelly was every time I spoke to him, it's going to be alright. Going to be alright. Okay, and then literally a few weeks after that, after the first MRI, I remember the doctor coming back in, same doctor I'd asked a few weeks before, sit there and go to me, in answer to your question a few weeks ago, the MRI's come back and can't see anything wrong. That was I was gone. I think I cuddled in and given the doctor a kiss. I was like, come in here. And Kelly just said, like, it just seemed like all of the emotions just went, and you just fell to my knees, and I was gone. And we did, and then we've got that picture that we'll show later, I'm sure, but that picture of bringing them home, because obviously then you get sent home from the hospital with just one baby. And I don't want to leave without the other one, but we couldn't. So you go home, and then the day we took both of them home, put them in that, got together, you just go, life is all right, yeah. But yeah, and that's the thing, and then the real work starts, right? As parents and the ups and downs. But I mean, it's great that I think we've all been able, like I said, the great thing that we've all got different stories, right? We've all been able to share them. I think one thing I really want to touch on is around the importance. One of the reasons that we're doing this, right, is the importance of talking about it. And I think the fact that with me and you, Tom, we bonded over that. We'd seen each other at a load of different events. Wow, mate, we should always catch up. That first meal we went for was before your first appointment for IVF, right? And you were so open with me, considering we didn't really know each other properly. You were so open with me, and by the second you said that, I was like, I had the permission to talk. Well, I've been through that. I've been through IVF, and I've had that experience, and we become really close friends, right? And I think bonded on that sense. And you was really open about that. But I've learned from my own journey, and the things I've gone through, the importance of being able to do that. And hopefully, what we're trying to create today, I guess. But what about you? Talking about was you more open with people?
Not really. I mean, I was. I wasn't very comfortable. As I said, I was the on the side of, I was the guy who couldn't deliver, a bit on the failing side. So therefore, I didn't want to share that. That wasn't part of my. But slowly, steadily, obviously, growing up as well, I realized things in life, talking about it and sharing with people around you. That's probably one of the best ways to both understand the experience, make sense out of it, and hopefully help other people as well.
Yeah. As I always caveat my openness by saying, because of the journey that we had where it was unexplained, I don't know whether that's the thing that helped us be more open, and maybe if there was some responsibilities. There's no word, is there? You don't want to say exactly. There isn't a word you can use, but yes, let's call it responsibility. It's probably the easiest way. But maybe that would have made us feel, I don't know. So I always do carry out my openness and saying that maybe a part of that openness is because the test results were healthy. But what I did learn from it is how powerful that is. So even if, like, let's say that there was a responsibility and I could then go back in time to change my way of thinking, I would say go be open, because of how much easier it made things. Our journey went from that we wanted to surprise our parents. So like my mum and dad, literally since I was 18, have been banging on about being grandparents. Like, they've only ever wanted to be grandparents. And then Em's mum and dad have got grandkids already, but Em's is their only daughter, so they obviously wants the same for her. So we wanted that moment where you surprise your parents that, look, you've got to be grandparents, and each month goes past and it becomes a bit harder to think, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And you go to parties and people are like, when are you guys going to have kids? When are you guys going to have kids? And it starts to wear down a little bit, and it gets to this point where, and then me and Em just sat down one night and we both said, look, I feel like I'm lying, and we're not liars. You know, we're not lying people. We've always been open people, and I feel like we're hiding this thing, and it's just me and you, and it's got all of this control over us. And like I said, we'll leave parties, and Em's is devastated because either someone's announced the pregnancy or someone's asked about, well, you're not having kids, and all in, and again, it's all amazing. Like, you're so happy for people, and you know that people are asking you, coming from a loving place, going because they want you to be parents, because they know how good the experience is, and it's all positive. But you still have this moment where you're like, yeah, but we're trying, but we're not telling anybody. And I can close my eyes and remember the whole conversation. Like, we literally sitting on the sofa, and we said to each other, well, let's just draw a line in the sand. Let's be brutally honest. Let's go all the way to that extreme where we will tell strangers, and we'll just, if someone wants to ask a question or wants to find out something, we'll just be brutally honest. And that made things so much easier, because all of a sudden you wasn't alone. For a start, you've shared it with everybody. So your family's on side, your friends are on side. When you are talking to strangers, people we met, we were probably one of our first conversations.
Absolutely.
And the same with one of our first conversations.
And that was a surprising factor, when we met. And allow me as well, obviously, to open up, as you said, and then obviously bonds.
And then all of a sudden, people are going, yeah, I've had an experience, or I've got a friend who's had an experience, or my brother's had this experience, and then you start to realise, oh, this is so common. It's not this thing that's just happening to you in your little world. It's going on all over the place, and everybody, even if you haven't experienced it yourself, you will, or it's only 1 degree of separation for most people that will know someone, and then all of a sudden, like I said, then it feels like, because you're talking about it, you're actually making it easier for other people to talk about it.
You're just opening up that conversation.
Oh,
and
massively.
you know, it's what you've done. I think, you know, it's not that you're a generation apart, but you were coming through. You said 2010, 2011. Men were not talking about, women were not talking about their fertility journey. And as we went through, you know, towards the time of COVID, it still wasn't. It was a taboo subject. There has been in the last 2 or 3 years a bit more of an opening up of the conversation, particularly amongst women, but we're still far behind when it comes to men. And if we look at the statistics around men's mental health anyway, and you add into that fertility issues, you know, some of the statistics that, you know, say sort of 18% of men trying to conceive will have depression. You know, it varies from culture to culture, because for some cultures, not being able to bear children, or your own child, biological own child, has a massive impact on how you are viewed by society. So it does vary across the globe, but it's a pretty stark figure, and certainly, you know, twice the level of depression in those trying to conceive than, you know, than those who are not. It's worrying, because we know about that, you know, that can lead to suicidal ideation, all sorts of things. And then what's worse is that medicine that might make that better, antidepressants, have a negative effect on sperm. So we then move into a vicious circle, which is why I was so, you know, encouraged by the fact you went to counselling. You realised, I need to do something. The relationship is difficult. I'm struggling at work. I need to get counselling. So you did 2 really good things. You talked about it to everybody around you, and you sort of took on sort of therapy. And I think that was key, really key. And something I think we need to encourage, and as fertility doctors we need to encourage, you know, this opening up of the conversation.
I think it's we touched on there obviously about mental health, and I think you know, on the podcast I talk about it a lot. It's something an area that I'm really passionate about sharing, again back with my own journey and stuff. But I think it's it's conversations like this. It's you talk about the around suicide rate and stuff like the reason it's the biggest killer in men under 45 is just it blows my mind. Every time I share that statistic, 84 men a week die of suicide. And when you go, then you look at that, and 18% of that potentially is related to fertility and stuff like that, and around becoming a parent or whatever that situation is. I mean, wow! Like it just, and if we can break the stigmas attached to these taboo subjects, I think that's the key, right? Whether it be mental health, whether it be fertility, women with menopause, whatever these taboo subjects that we don't generally talk about are, that's where things start to change, right? And hopefully a conversation like today might have a little ripple effect, might allow other people to open up and start talking about that journey. And I think for me, especially like you sharing how you did so openly, really does encourage, because people come on that journey with you. Yeah. People come on that journey with you, and they all want to be there to support you. Like I said, I think we feel like we need to hide away from certain things, and I think that's where potentially the problem is, and that's where we need to hopefully with this that we can address it like this.
Yeah.
But then you've got the finance part. Okay, we're here, we're talking to people. You've all had benefit of NHS financing, but not everybody's eligible. Yeah. I mean, for many places, if your partner's had a child, you're not eligible. So it can be really difficult, and add that finance burden, which often falls on the man who might be the bread earner, the main bread earner. That adds and compounds the problem, and that feeling of guilt. And I, my personal view is we want to talk about it more. We want to open the conversation. But we also need to educate young people, even at school. Boys at school need to actually start thinking, I've got something called fertility health here. Yeah. Don't just give them advice on contraception. Yeah, still give it to them, but also talk about the different things you can do to your body that will harm your fertility. Yeah. And we always talk about women and the timeline that your fertility will decline with age, but it does with men too. Yep. It's great having these great Al Pacino and all these people having kids in their 80s, but it's not realistic. These are just the old few. Fertility does decline in men with time as well, and men can do harmful things. I see a lot of the young boys now. They go to the gym. Gym is a great way of feeling good, but they take testosterone. It's incredibly damaging to sperm. Anabolic steroids, taking recreational drugs, cannabis, all these things, and we need to educate young people to get themselves tested quite early and do things about their health. And as you did, not be embarrassed to have counselling. It's a great way of being able to get somebody to give you that guidance. You guys have done very well, because that's your business minds, your business heads told you this isn't going the way I want it to go. How can I make it go the way I want it to go? But that's not a given for everybody. And some people need help.
I guess there's a couple of things I really want to touch on there, Carole, that you've highlighted. I think that the finance problem, I'd love to go to you on this, Kiri, and talk about, because, like I said, we was really lucky. We didn't have to, there wasn't a financial input there, didn't have to have that struggle or that to worry about as well. If we'd had that, we only had 2 bands at the time. It was only 2 bands before we went through, so had we not been successful at that time, we'd have had the finance thing. And can you share a little bit about that? That's just big burden.
Yeah, it is kind of, it's a big problem, as you said, as well. We hit our limit 2 times, and then thankfully there was this financial packages that came.
3-cycle package was the refund package.
What does that look like? Can you tell us?
So we were early into adopting a great package. It's offered by a company called Access Fertility, and it allowed our patients to sort of buy 2 cycles, sort of not for the price of 1, but it meant that if they didn't get pregnant the first cycle, the second cycle was taken care of. And it's a sort of insurance. It's more like the United States model, where everybody basically has the healthcare covered by insurance. It meant that when you had that disappointing result on that first cycle, the second cycle was taken care of. You'd paid for it already. But if you were pregnant, the fact that you didn't have to use the second cycle, it doesn't matter. You're feeling really, really happy. And that's a model that's been rolled out in different ways. And I think it's important, that people realise that a lot of people say, well, why is fertility treatment so expensive? It's not. It's the same cost as all other medical treatments. It's just that all other medical treatments are covered by the NHS. This is one of the few areas the NHS still does not cover properly. And that's why, you can be spending 6-7 grand on a cycle of treatment and medication. And that's a lot. A typical IVF cycle, with these days is going to be around 6 grand when you take into account the medication. And it can be more for some people if they need higher doses of medication. Yes. And so you can imagine for people who have to do 2 or 3 rounds of IVF, that's a lot of money to find.
It also adds another complexity for when it doesn't work. So if all of a sudden you have a miscarriage or it doesn't land, and then not only have you got the pain of the parenting not happening, but then you look at your bank account going, that money has just been gone, and I've got to now go find it again.
There's nothing to see there.
And must just be so, like, it just adds a whole other, and that's why the NHS is so powerful. Is it, you look at the American system versus the UK system or any sort of public health system, it takes this massive burden away so you can just concentrate on the health element. Because when you add a financial element, you've just added a whole nother layer of complexity and problems into something that's already really tough and really emotional. And that's why I think like the NHS is a bit of a sacred cow in the UK, because we all understand how important it is to focus on your health and not think about it as a financial thing. And then unfortunately, because some people, you have to go down that route, you add this whole other complexity to it, which must be so painful to then be going through what's one of the hardest things you can go through, and then be thinking about the money side of it as well.
But there's a whole, even our community in Sussex, there's a whole lot of people that may listen to this podcast, and they'll say, but we were denied NHS funding for one reason or another, and that can be really hard. It might be because the female partner's got a hormone level and it doesn't quite meet the criteria. Things like that, it makes it very, very hard, because for some people that money, they will never be able to find it.
So I always got the sense that the NHS want to back winners in the grossest sense of the term. Is it felt like the criteria was the NHS is going to put this money in and we're going to get results because we've made it a tougher criteria to fit. So then it's kind of like, but there's all of these other people that still want their shot, who could still be lucky and still get and still work for them. But because you've kind of ring fenced it for, you want good statistics versus good health outcomes, kind of feels like.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard, isn't it? Because, I mean, I listen to that, and you sort of talk about them figures, and you said you had another 3 rounds after thinking that's a lot of, and a lot of people, I know categorically, like, especially at that time, had we not got pregnant, it was going to be a very, very tough call. We didn't have that money. 100% that we're doers, I'd have found it somehow. And I spent a bit more time down the market selling some watches or whatever. But you know what I mean? You sort of go, I would have tried to, but that, like you said, there is just adds another level of pressure to the situation. Again, back to, one of the reasons that suicide is so high is, I think it's nearly 60% of male suicides are finance or economic related. So again, when you put that level into the situation, right, the pressures again from society, the pressures from around us are put on it, and then you add that into the whole mix of the emotional rollercoaster that we're all going through as well, and it's just becomes another level, I guess, isn't it?
And then we haven't really talked about it, but the relationship breakdown. I mean, I've seen so many couples, and they've just contacted us, and they've said, no, it was too much. That we just couldn't keep going, and we've given up, and we split up, and that's really hard. So sometimes they have embryos that they've frozen as a couple, and we're hoping for them to come back, use those embryos, and they said, no, we're just going to dispose. We've given up. And that's hard, really hard, and we need to find a way to address the counselling, the CBT that can be put in place, because I do believe it's possible. And the first thing is to facilitate it, from our point of view, but also in the workplace. I mean, you're doing some fantastic work here in the workplace well-being, and I've started doing a lot more talks in the workplace, as many of my colleagues have, to try and educate companies that you've got to be there to support your employees. And I think one of the things that you're doing really well, Kiri, is your work on workplace well-being. But what I'd really like to see is more and more companies addressing the fertility issues and having a fertility policy in the workplace and being able to encourage their employees to feel safe, to feel that they can be heard, to feel protected. Because we do a lot around pregnancy and people giving they're given time to have appointments for the antenatal clinic, and then they're given maternity pay, a little bit more paternity pay coming in. But we're not really, in most companies, addressing that many people have a fertility journey, they have miscarriages, they need time off work to attend for appointments. They also need a space. Women need a space to perhaps take their injections and feel safe. But also conversations, education, work. I've given a lot of webinars in the last 2 or 3 years in different companies where we encourage people to lunch and learn and learning about fertility matters and the different journeys people can take, the different emotional roller coasters that people face. So I think there's a whole. I know we've talked about it, and it's so much more that we can do to encourage different companies to bring in a policy around fertility.
In retrospect, I think I was working, I'm not going to name them, I was working for a big employer in Brighton at the time, and I think if I was a little bit more open with my situation, our situation, my family situation, that would have been a positive thing. I didn't know if they had a policy in place, but they are one of the biggest employers in the world. So, but it goes both ways. Employees need to be open, and employers need to have these strategies and policies in place.
Do you have any templates of policies that you would share with businesses?
Yeah, and in fact, I shared it on in one of the articles I wrote for Sam's for the Sussex Business Times, and it's also about learning how to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And like you said, my friends were really trying to help. They were just they were trying to make the right conversation, but actually some of that conversation is about listening. It's really being there to listen and just pause and give people the space to let it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the educational piece is. It isn't just saying, well, this is what happens in a fertility clinic. It's about these are the experiences that people have. This storytelling we've done, it's been great because it's sharing that experience, the ups and the downs and the challenges that you face that are so important.
Yeah. I'd love to add something in our employee handbook because that'd be such an easy place to put something. And obviously I know staff would go there first to check to see what sort of services and support companies offer. But there's we use an outsourced HR company, and I'm pretty sure that if between us we got in touch with someone like that and said, send out a memo to all of the businesses that you work with, letting them know that there is a policy for fertility that you've written and to recommend putting it into people's employee handbooks. So it must be an easy win for a lot of businesses because it's copy and paste and it's there, it exists now, and all of a sudden. It's
really important to have different policies. Menopause policy, fertility policy is really important. But also, the very large companies, Google, Apple, they're actually using it as a workplace well-being to pay for fertility treatment.
Wow.
£20,000 towards fertility treatment, something like that is, can you imagine?
Yeah.
If all companies roll something like that, it's not going to be possible for all businesses. But making some sort of gesture towards supporting financially, a contribution, and insurance schemes that incorporate. There are some insurance companies that are now looking at fertility policies.
And the other thing, a policy is good, but also having the people within the business, well-being champions or someone, an advocate that talks, policy, that talks how they can, the tools can be used and utilized by the employees. That's very important as well. It bridges the gap between something written and something done within the company.
Knowing where to go.
Absolutely.
So, having it written down is one thing, but actually knowing who the person is to speak to that's going to be able to open up those things for you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think, and just touch, I guess, look, let's take it back a step further. You talk about education side of it. I think definitely where we need to be in the workplace and where we need to be addressing them things. But I think actually this whole journey with fertility needs to go, like you said, we'll go back to school. Like, we're a bit older than you, but we'll go back to school, right? And it was talking about contraception, right, and talking about how not to, which is still obviously very important. Don't get me wrong for young children, but at the same time, being like I said, Kelly went through depression based on the fact that she just got floored by the thing that wasn't aware. And like I said, when you do start talking openly about stuff, and you realise how many people go through miscarriage. I don't know what the statistics are. I think it's 1 in 3 or so.
In younger people, it's up to 15% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage, and as the women get older, so it goes up 20-25%.
Wow.
You know, when you get to your late 30s, early 40s. So it's a very common problem.
25%, so a quarter of the people, of women are having. So when you look at that statistic and you look at it, and actually, it is more common than we are aware of. So should we be talking about that in school? Should we be going in and educating people around fertility, getting blokes to go and get themselves checked early on, and just making it more of a conversation that we're aware of, so that actually maybe blokes in their early 20s are talking about it a little bit more openly around, you know, that when they come to having maybe some problems later in life, or they are starting a family, they've had those conversations with their peers, with friends, that because it's not a taboo subject anymore, because we're starting to hopefully change that narrative around it.
I mean, I've done some talks in schools, you know, in the last couple of years, and it's absolutely, it's really inspiring, because the kids, I've tended to talk to sort of 16, 17-year-olds, and it's absolutely inspiring. They are so open with each other, not just about everything in life, but fertility is actually something they're intrigued. What's all this IVF? And a lot of them are kids that have been conceived through IVF. They want to talk about it, and they want to talk about their sexuality and their sexual orientation. And you know, they may be very openly gay or non-binary or trans. They want to know there's a parenting future for them, and yet that's not in the curriculum. And that's why the fertility education project is so important. We must get it right in schools and universities, and even in the workplace, because some people may not go on to do higher education. We've got to start talking about all the different parenting options and make it a normal conversation. And one of the things I was telling you about, you came to we had our opening, our clinic a year ago, and I said, right, well, we're going to do an IVF discovery day. As part of our grand opening party, we're going to open up our old laboratory where your twins were conceived. It was you know, we were opening a new clinic, so this was now sort of a redundant space, but we actually had lots of interactive stations, workstations where the children were able to come. They were, you know, they'd been conceived through IVF. They were able to come and look at how, you know, babies are made in the laboratory sense, and it was so comfortable. It was a really nice experience. And then we said, actually, we need to do this again. We're going to have more IVF discovery days. We made a little video which put on a memory stick, which gave to the parents. When your child's ready, that's what they need to watch. They need to know how much they were loved, because to bring you into this world wasn't easy. It was absolutely born. You were born out of love in no uncertain times, not just by obviously your parents, but you know, we had our laboratory and our medical staff and our nursing staff, and everybody was part of that story, that video. And so we did that, and you know, some of the older children, particularly around the age of 9, we're happy. We bring them in to actually see. You know, we've got glass doors. They can see our laboratory, and they can see what's going on. We've actually built, where we freeze all our embryos, we've actually built little portholes so they can stand on a stool and they can see where we store everything. And let's make it a normal conversation for young people conceived through IVF. I mean, I don't know if you've got thought about when you're going to tell your children about how they were conceived, but it's important.
How old were they?
Probably not long after the Discovery Day was last year, wasn't it? Yeah. So leading up to Discovery Day, so 7, 8, they're coming around that type of time. We've been really open about him, explained, we've told them the whole process, and then we went into Discovery Day. It was brilliant. I think it'd be great to do. Such a great idea. They love them. They're in there and they're getting their heads around what's happening now. They talk like they talk to us about it. Like, you know, I mean, I told them today I'm coming to record this podcast. They know about Carole, and you know what I mean. I think that's such a lovely thing. I want them to know, like you said, the amount of love that has gone in that journey for them to come into the world, right, was a start. And I even talk about them now when we're talking about resilience and things, using it as an example of what that's like for them to understand. Like, your start of your journey was already a challenge, and you come in, you're here. It's magical to see. So I think actually, I don't know, have you spoke to Marco about it?
Not yet, and I'm looking forward to hopefully the next open day that we can take part.
Do that next year. Early next year, you'll have an invite.
That'd be amazing.
But this is the time, and I think 9 is a really critical time, and the schools are just starting to explore traditional natural conception. But actually, it's really important they also talk about assisted reproduction.
I really like you used the word earlier, parental options.
Yeah.
And to reframe it from a fertility question to becoming a parent question. And because that's ultimately what you're trying to do. The fertility is a journey to become a parent, whereas and then like I said, there's so many different options, like you said, sperm donors, adoption, all these different things. It's like, actually, fertility isn't the goal. Becoming a parent is a goal. Having a child is a goal. And whether that's however source or route you've gone down, ultimately we're all trying to become parents. So I really like the word, the terminology, parental options.
Journey is what I like to talk about.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, that leads us nicely as we're coming up to round up. I guess look, one of the reasons that we're all sitting here, we're fortunate enough, I guess, all three of us to have had successful journeys, right, through IVF. I know we did touch on, it doesn't work for everyone, and there is, parental options and stuff like that. But look, we're all sitting here and all blessed at the fact that we have got kids, right? Between us, we've got 4 of them, and it was magical, right? It's just like we said earlier, there's nothing that we will do in our lives that will compare to the joy and the frustration that they can bring as well. Bless them. But it is I mean, look, we've got some brilliant photos on here. I've got to show the one of you and in the Spurs. Get in.
Em's only found out that he's named after Teddy Sheringham a couple of weeks ago.
I love that.
We just bought a new house, and when we was in the garden, we noticed it's like a little Spurs name, and I was like, oh, they must be Spurs fans as well. And then they're moving because their grandchild's just been born, who's been called Teddy. And then Em goes to me, Teddy, Spurs fans, there's Teddy. I'm like, yeah, he's named after Teddy Sheringham.
I love that.
Sam, this is awesome, man. I mean, this is
look at that.
Awesome. I love this. I love the look in your face. Kiri, I'm a dad here. I'm a dad.
I am a dad. That was quite a moment.
Are you looking a bit tired there?
Like 24 hours. We were waiting, and he wouldn't come out. And then the forceps, obviously, he's got a bit of a thing in his face that obviously went away afterwards. But what a journey. What a journey. Yeah. How many times I cried that day?
Absolutely. Who took that photograph? That's beautiful.
Yeah, my partner took that photograph.
That's beautiful. That's that
first
dad
I couldn't take my eyes off of him for days. So we were lucky enough to be able to go to Tunbridge Wells. So the rooms in Tunbridge Wells, you have your own room, so you're not being kicked out. Because I know a lot of people get put on wards, and you're kind of in and amongst other people. You have a private room in Tunbridge Wells, and I just remember like all of the drama of a C-section, and then you go into the waiting sort of like the recovery room, and it's all still, and you're just like I said, the world stops, and you're like, what's going on? And then you get moved to your room, and it's just you 3. There's no one else. And it's like, and I just literally, and Em just kept laughing to just see. I'm just like staring at him and just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. Something I wanted to mention earlier actually, when you were saying about obviously like the having to use like the special equipment and stuff. And I remember being in the room in Tunbridge Wells thinking, we're having the best day of our life here, and upstairs is probably someone having the worst day of their life. And it's like, and as much as you just want to like enjoy this moment, you can't help but just think this hospital is full of different journeys, and everybody's experiencing something completely different. And sometimes I'd get in the lift, and I'd go, oh, I'm not gonna give emotion. So I'd go down to get like a sandwich or something, and you get in the lift, and there's a part of you that wants to pray that the person standing next to you doesn't press that button, because you know if they're pressing that button, they're going to the floor above you, and it's not a good thing. And you're pressing that button because you're going to the best thing, and you see these parents coming out, and you're just thinking, oh my god, it's like everybody's journey is so different, and the emotions and all of that is incredible, and but always being so thankful that we've had this moment, because you don't know what's going on elsewhere in that building.
Oh mate, you're so spot on with that, and I think like the gratitude that you experience when they are, and like I say, I guess I was the parent sitting there like you, really excited. At the same time, I was the parent pressing the button to go up to the place, and I can't tell you, like that moment you walk in, and there's these other babies in that Trevor Mann unit, which is just a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal unit, and it didn't matter what time of day I went up there. It was almost like a nurse was there just looking after Lucy, and I just couldn't get, like, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, it could have been 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever time it was, there was someone there looking after. And you've got, like, these babies were tiny, others come out were huge, and like, there was all different people there at different parts of the journey. And look, I'm sitting here today as one of the lucky ones. I had an experience, but look, I've got 2 beautiful, healthy children, right? But I tell you what, there was them moments you go up and you're just like, and you look around, like you said, you walk out and there was people in there for months, months in there, and you just, like you said, your heart goes out to them, and I know people that, you know, unfortunately come out of there without them, you know what I mean? But, you know, look, let's leave this on a really positive note, in the sense that, like I said, one of the reasons that we're all sitting here is because, look, we're looking at these pictures we've had our journey, our kids are growing up, and we're so blessed by all of us, and I think, I'm sure you two are both joined me in, and we possibly wouldn't be in that situation if it wasn't for the amazing Carole and her team at the Agora Clinic, and the fact that we're all sitting here sharing these amazing stories, because I said it on the first podcast when you come on, 23 hours in, but like you make miracles happen, and
miracles happen.
And you know, on behalf of all 3 of us, I think, you know, thank you.
Wholeheartedly.
You don't know what it's like until I have the best job in the world. It's some days are really tough. You know, we've had to give bad news, but very well most days there's going to be some good news, and that's an amazing thing to have as your, you know, why do I you know, get up in the morning. It's an amazing job, and I'm so pleased we've been able to share the, you know, the feelings and emotions that it's been for you guys coming through the fertility journey, because it's not spoken about. It's been brilliant. I've loved it. I've loved listening to you.
It's one of them things, you know, I'm always every time I do a podcast, and especially a special type of episode like this and these type of conversations, that you envisage what, like the first conversation we had, where you go, I wonder what will come out of this, and how can we make this happen? And here we are doing it, and it exceeds your expectations. Like, knew that how close we all are as a bond. I knew that I hope that's come across. But ultimately, with a mission here, right, with a goal to try and open the conversation more, to try and get men talking about it a little bit more around mental health, around fertility, around all of these subjects that are seen as taboo. That actually, hopefully, conversations like today will start changing the game, and I'm grateful for all 3 of you to be here today and share our stories, right, and get our message out there, and hopefully we're going to make a bit of a difference.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for pulling it all together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
It's been amazing. I think, as they say, that is a wrap.